Hey everybody, Steve from Spice Field Kitchen, and today we're going to talk about transplanting your Sun Gold tomatoes. Now, big thank you to the PTA and their fundraiser to provide these, and Dean's Greenhouse for providing these awesome transplants for you. Now, almost all of you probably had plants that started out looking something like this, and casted a great video showing how to seed these trays, but sooner or later, yours become so big and so awesome that you're going to have to transplant them either into a pot or into the ground. Now, before we begin, we're going to talk about the things you need to do to transplant. We can amend your soil, and we're going to talk about fertilizers and amending the soil. We're going to talk about hardening off your plants, which is super important, and we'll talk about the amount of sunlight you want to give them. So, here we go. All right, everybody, we're outside our greenhouse at Spice Acres, and this is our hardening off area. So when we're growing our plants and we have them in their pots, we like to do what's called hardening off, which is bringing them outside little by little so that they get used to the breeze and the intensity of the sunlight. So this should take several days, and every single day that you're doing this, you're bringing them out a little bit longer. So the first day, bring them out, just give them a couple hours out in the sun, maybe in some shade, and then bring it back inside. And then the next day a little bit longer, and the next day a little bit longer, until you can leave them out the entire day, which is roughly around day 7 or 8. Now just keep in mind, this is April. So our last frost date around here is until the middle of May. So we're gonna take real good care of these until it's ready to transplant. But you should be thinking about adding fertilizer or amending your soil depending on where you want to plant it. Now, through the power of video, I'm going to show you that and how we did it too. Hey everybody, so what you saw was me amending our raised beds here. All I was doing was taking potting soil or raised bed soil, compost works really well too, adding it to the top, turning it in, and then flattening it out and spreading it so that it adds those awesome nutrients to the soil. Something as simple as that. If you're putting it into a pot, just using potting soil will provide all the nutrients your plant's going to need for this season. Boom, how awesome was that? Now you saw us fertilize and amend our soil, and you should do something similar while you're hardening off your plant. That's a great time to add fertilizer to your bed and prep everything for the transplant. Now, depending on where you're going to put it, in your yard or your backyard, you want to have at least 8 hours of direct sunlight for your plant in order for it to grow big, healthy, and strong. So now, we're going to show you how to transplant either into your pot or directly into the ground. Now, we got a pot, and you can use a pot this big, you can use a pot larger, you can use a 5-gallon bucket, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a nice, large pot where there's enough dirt in there to give your plant tons of room to spread out its roots and grow big and tall. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at my pot that I have my Sun Gold tomato plant in, and I'm going to determine how much room I'm going to need to dig my hole. Now, as most of the students out there know, I have no problem getting my hands dirty, so I'm just going to dig right in there with my hand, but of course you can always bring out your tool that you use to dig yourself a hole inside your pot. Now, I'm going to move enough dirt out of the way. Now, before I pull my pot or my plant out of my pot, what I usually do, just to make sure I've made a large enough hole, is I'll take the whole thing and I'll set it right down inside of it, just to see if I got enough room inside that pot, or if I need to dig it just a little bit deeper. And I think I'm in a pretty good spot there. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my plant and I'm going to give it a little squeeze on either side. If you have a plastic small pot, I turn it upside down and I'm going to kind of remove it from its existing pot and gently turn it right back over into our new pot, patting it down, and then I'm going to give it a good covering of soil, just like that. And you have yourself transplanted into your brand new pot. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is water. Now, what I like to do is give a good watering, and I'll let it sit. I'll let that soil absorb water, and then I'll come back and we'll do it again. And we'll do it again and again until I feel it's really saturated in there. See, a lot of people make the mistake of just watering right on the top and they think it's good, but depending on the type of soil, and if it comes right out of the bag and it's really, really dry, it can actually repel water. And you'll see your water kind of roll off to the sides, and then it'll just sloop right down the sides and out the bottom. So you just want to make sure that you're watering little by little and really saturating that soil. And it's as easy as that. So next we're going to talk about transplanting your sun gold tomato right into the ground. Hi everybody, we're back and we are going to be transplanting our awesome sun gold tomato plant right into the ground. Now for our example for planting in the ground, we're using a raised bed in our greenhouse. A lot of you students have seen this before. So you can do this in a raised bed like we have here, or of course you can do it right into the ground in your yard, in your garden, wherever. And just like your pot, we want to make sure that we have a large enough hole to fit our already potted tomato plant. And you can use a tool like this to dig your hole, or just like I was doing with the pot, you'll see me move this soil out of the way with my hands. And then before I transplant anything, I'll test it to see if I have the right depth and plenty of room to cover over that awesome tomato plant. I feel like I'm in a good place. So again, just like I was doing the pot, I will give it a little squeeze on the sides, try to release it, a little tap from the bottom, a little magic, 1, 2, 3, and boom, pot comes off. And very gently, I'm going to put my tomato plant in the ground, and we'll cover it up with our soil, and we can even bury it right up to that first tier of leaves, so nice and supported. Just like that. And just like our pot, we're going to continue to water it little by little, let it absorb. This soil is actually particularly dry, and you could see how that water's just running right off there. So I'll come back and I'll keep watering it, and I'll keep until I can thoroughly saturate this just the way the plant wants. And there it is, as easy as that to transplant your tomatoes. Our next videos, Cass and I are going to talk to you about trellising as well as pruning your tomatoes, because these are indeterminate tomatoes, which means they're going to continue to grow, and we're going to have to find ways to trellis them. So we'll see you next time.